This week, Senator Collins said that she didn't even regret her vote. Well, Senator, a lot of Maine women regret their vote for you.
Susan Collins' biggest skeleton is crawling out of her closet to haunt her. After weeks of telling everyone women were going to find Graham Platner repulsive, it's her everyone hates, probably because she single-handedly doomed millions of women, only for those same women to come back with a furious vengeance as Platner secures this massive endorsement.
I am Alexis McGill Johnson, and I'm the president and CEO of the Planned Parenthood Action Fund. And today, the Action Fund is proud to announce the endorsement of Graham Platner to the U.S. Senate. Just last week, Susan Collins had the gall to say that she does not regret voting for Justice Kavanaugh, though she is disappointed. Well, let me tell you something. The 26 million women of reproductive age living in states with abortion bans are more than disappointed. Women waiting in parking lots for sepsis to set in are more than disappointed. The families of the women who have lost their lives as a direct result of these bans are more than disappointed. To change that reality, we need a majority in the Senate in favor of protecting and expanding reproductive freedom. That means electing champions like Graham Platner.
Time is far past up for those misogynistic freaks in office, and there is no more runway for the Democrats to play nice. I know those anti-feminists on the right are so tight right now that they could squeeze coal into a diamond. They tried to pretend that women were going to turn on Platner, but they forgot that women aren't morons like they are. Well, that's likely because women understand that the right doesn't care about how women are treated at all. In fact, these MAGAloids can't even help themselves. Their hatred for women just leaks out. Why would anyone believe Barbara Kay pretending to be appalled by Graham Platner when she turns around and says, "So much for female oppression," under the heavy hand of patriarchal scourges like the Me Too alleged campus quote-unquote rape culture and quote-unquote toxic masculinity, as if these things aren't very much real. They seriously think that the women of Maine wouldn't be able to see through this fake outrage? They want them to vote for the same woman that promised that they would never touch abortion rights? Susan Collins specifically said that she would protect Roe v. Wade, but results say that was a lie.
Look, I think that Senator Collins is a fair weather feminist at best. I think that she is conveniently pro-reproductive freedom when it suits her, and when she has to make tough choices, like supporting justices like Brett Kavanaugh, she chooses to go the other way. She is and has been one of two Senate Republican women who we have worked with consistently over time, but when we've asked her to make the hard decisions, she has demurred, and that is not acceptable for a U.S. Senator and is not acceptable for someone who is standing up for reproductive freedom in this country.
I think it's also important to remember Justice Kavanaugh was the deciding vote on overturning Roe, and Susan Collins was the deciding vote on confirming Brett Kavanaugh. So just because you have voted for other justices, but if you vote for the person who is the reason that women have lost this right in this country, I'm sorry. I think that is just a very clear reality.
Collins knows that this is bad for her. The race is pretty much hinging on the vote of older women, and none of the bad boyfriend scandals are sticking, so it looks like they finally switched strategies, going back to an old favorite of the GOP, just telling the public alternative facts.
Is this an issue that you think is troublesome for you in this race now that Roe v. Wade was overturned in Maine, across the country?
Well, first of all, let me make clear that I disagreed with the Supreme Court's 6-3 decision overturning Roe v. Wade. But the fact is that whether Justice Kavanaugh were confirmed or not, Roe v. Wade would have been overturned given the 6-3 vote.
Why would she tell such an obvious and easily debunkable lie? I mean, I know why. Republicans have baby bird brains. They just eat up whatever's in front of them. Platner, though, was quick to slam Collins for the disastrous sidestep attempt that she tried. He said Susan Collins is lying through her teeth. Roe v. Wade was not overturned 6-3. That is a lie. It was 4-5. Roberts specifically said he did not support overturning Roe. 6-3 was the other thing that was decided at the same time as Dobbs, which was upholding Mississippi's abortion ban. She's trying to conflate the two decisions to make it seem like she wasn't the final vote. Graham continues, Brett Kavanaugh was the deciding vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, and Susan Collins was the deciding vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh to a lifetime appointment on the Supreme Court. There is no other way to shake it, although Susan may try. She is the reason why Roe v. Wade is no longer the law of the land. She's the prime example of why elections matter. The consequence of one election in one state has cascading effects on all of the others, and people have had enough of Collins being concerned. It's clear she was never concerned enough to actually act.
I will never forgive Susan Collins for her vote for Brett Kavanaugh, which resulted in the overturning of Wade. But I will be honest, I also will never forgive establishment Democrats for many years never taking the opportunity to codify reproductive rights in federal law. And we need to be clear, it's not enough to just go back to Roe. We need to enshrine those rights in federal law forever and all time to make sure that we are not just one bad judge away from seeing rights stripped away from 26 million Americans who right now have seen that completely disappear because of decisions made by politicians like Susan Collins. When Susan Collins told us that Brett Kavanaugh had assured her that Roe was settled law, it was the law of the land, and that a woman's right to choose was in no way, shape, or form under threat, she either lied to us or she was tricked. Neither one of those is something we want out of our United States Senator for the state of Maine.
The establishment is pissed off about this endorsement. They're still trying to convince America that Platner is disqualified. To them, they can't imagine why anyone would be willing to overlook some of his past mistakes. What they don't realize is that the more they harp on those mistakes, the more voters just dig in their heels. I think this article by Vanessa Gazzari expressed this phenomenon perfectly. This is the only Platner-Trump comparison that I think really works, because what's going on isn't a cult of personality. We wouldn't forgive him for murder or Epstein like MAGA, but there is something of a blue tea party afoot. The writer reflects on the media's handling of his first scandals, saying, "The result, months of grinding dissonance between the stories national outlets were telling and the ground reality at a scale I hadn't seen since the media's much bemoaned failure to understand rural Americans' support for Trump in 2016. Times have changed and patience is running thin. We're no longer willing to let decorum work its magic as the arc of history bends towards justice. We want that shit to snap into place right now. And if you aren't willing to play ball, then get out of the way. Make sure you're registered to vote wherever you are. And if you know anyone in New York, remind them that Tuesday is Election Day. Subscribe to U.S. Democratic Socialists. I'm Tony Hinderman, and I'll catch you next time.